The War on Bitcoin Part 1, A Cashless Society. They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Wise words from Benjamin Franklin over 200 years ago that shows that even then he understood that exchanging one's privacy for convenience was only a win for those who seek to take away your liberty. A popular rap song in the 1990s exclaimed, "It's all about the Benjamins," and Benjamin Franklin has become a representative of cash as it is his face that is on the $100 bill. So the fact that many businesses and even countries are trying to rid themselves of cash is an ironic twist based on Benjamin Franklin's quote, because giving up cash, while it may seem very convenient, means that you will be earning convenience while giving up your liberties. We see this every day in the form of people allowing things to come inside of their home, like Alexa or even your iPhones, that secretly record you, and they seek to understand everything about the way that you live, move, and relate to others. And no, this is not a giant psychological study in order to better understand the human psyche for the benefit and well-being of mankind. This is for corporations to be able to try to understand your habits so that they can make more money off of you and ultimately control aspects of your life. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. This is a cryptocurrency channel. Why would I be advocating that the removal of cash is a bad thing? The answer to this is simple. While Bitcoin is digital, it operates in a similar way to cash. This is why the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, entitled his Bitcoin white paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Bitcoin is able to be transferred from peer to peer without the need for a trusted third party. I put trusted in quotes because while the third party involved in transactions does guarantee the transactions are valid, they should certainly not be trusted on a macro level. These third parties are companies like PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and of course, big banks. These are the very companies and industries that are trying to take away your liberties. Financial institutions do not like cash because it operates outside of the control of these companies. Sound familiar? That's because Bitcoin also operates outside of these controls. This means that a war on cash is also a war on Bitcoin. The fact is that cash transactions are dwindling. Online and mobile transactions are even increasing, while traditional brick and mortar cash transactions are greatly dwindling. Governments and corporations want you to fall victim to a herd mentality and believe that cash is an outdated system that will one day only be an artifact in museums. Bitcoin serves as the perfect successor to physical cash. It's digital, can be transacted using a mobile phone, and is convenient. However, those who seek to control your life will not tell you this. This is because they are not only looking to abolish the use of cash, but they are trying to destroy the very idea of cash. This extends to both physical and digital cash. They would like to sell you on the idea of a utopian future where there is no crime and no black market. Imagine if there were no cash and every transaction made was completely traceable. This would mean that drug cartels, terrorists, sex and human traffickers, and other criminals would be forced to work out some type of barter system in order to continue their crimes. Ultimately, no one could put cash in a bank in a cashless society, so they would have to find other means of trade. To believe that they would not find a way to do this is the very definition of naive. As long as there is a desire for drugs, weapons, and sex, these forces will continue to operate in the shadows. One of the ways they will do this is through hacking. If every dollar in the world was digital instead of physical, the rate of cybercrime would go through the roof. So let's think about this. Governments tell you they want all money to be traceable in order to stop criminals. But any rational person knows that you cannot stop criminals from operating. They just find more innovative ways of doing business. For evidence, just look at the war on drugs in America. On top of traditional crime, if all money were stored digitally, then the cybercrime problem will get worse. So this is obviously not about stopping crime and making us all safer. That is the propaganda that governments will use to push forward the cashless society narrative. So what does a cashless society mean for our future? While the narrative of a utopian world with no crime sounds great, it's much more likely that we head toward the very opposite. A dystopian world marked by a totalitarian world government in which every aspect of every person's life is controlled and watched by the government through surveillance. Corporations and the governments become one and the same, as only the very elite in society will have wealth. And have no doubt, if we continue down this road of ever-increasing surveillance and tracking, this is the future we will have. I'm reminded of a poem written by German Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller following the Nazis' rise to power in the early 1900s. It says, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unions, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." This poem points out the slow and gradual compromises that the intellectuals and clergy of Germany allowed as they watched their society take a very dark turn toward totalitarianism. It does not happen overnight. We are allowing our governments to take away our individual liberties one by one. Before we know it, we will be encapsulated on all sides like a bird in a cage. Future generations will look back at this generation as the hinge that allowed the door to control and totalitarianism to swing wide open. Just walk down the street of a large city and observe how many police officers, security cameras, and other forms of surveillance that you see. I promise that if you really stop and take a look, you will realize there are many more people watching you than you think. We are heading toward George Orwell's vision for the world in his book 1984. Many countries are already pushing for cashless societies. In America, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home to the Atlanta Falcons, became the first stadium in major sports to move to a cashless fan experience. Cashless retail stores are popping up left and right in the name of convenience and avoiding employee theft. In Australia, Citibank got rid of cash because only 4% of its transactions were cash. Shortly after, the Australian government started flirting with the idea of removing the Australian $100 bill because it would reduce crime. In Belgium, you cannot buy real estate using cash or make any purchase with cash over 3,000 euros. Sweden was the first European country to use banknotes as cash, and it is on track to be the first to remove them and become a completely cashless society. However, the world leader in the push to become cashless is none other than communist China. It is certainly not a coincidence that the world's largest communist country would push toward becoming cashless. In a communist system, only those at the very top are wealthy. There is no need for cash, as citizens only receive what the government allows them to have. As history shows, they only receive scraps. China is also one of the leaders in surveillance. It is rare to see police officers in China because you are virtually never out of sight from one of the government's state security cameras. China does not want any citizen to do anything that it cannot track. China is creating its own cryptocurrency called CBDC. This will be a currency ran partially on blockchain that could allow China to become the world's currency leader. However, I will personally guarantee that when this cryptocurrency is in use, the government of China will be able to track every single transaction because they will control the currency. We are starting to see more governments discuss the use of a government blockchain in order to move to a digital currency that they can control. Germany is also discussing creating their own digital currency. But do not be confused. These government blockchains are not aligned with the ideals of cryptocurrency. They will not be decentralized, and governments will use them to control rather than citizens using cryptocurrency to avoid being controlled. We must fight back against our governments and these corporations who seek to control us. We do this by using Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not just digital cash. It is an idea. It is a movement. And it cannot be stopped as long as the will of the people is to maintain a level of personal privacy. This extends beyond just our monetary transactions, but to every aspect of our lives. Submitting to a cashless society moves us one step closer to giving up our rights. I, for one, will not go quietly into the night. Will you? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please smash the like button and subscribe to this channel to learn much more about cryptocurrency.